I think that the first thing, going back to the first misconception, I think it makes sense to recognize that the security team, or this, like lowercase security team, whomever the security minded folks are in the org, they need to come together and figure out, like, what is our process going to look like in terms of like integrating security into the delivery process in a way that is primarily self-serve. Like 95% of security changes should essentially be self-serve from components that are built and vetted by the organization or for the organization, so that the security specialists are not in the operational path of like reviewing changes before they go out to production. Because in what they're going to find is that they're now if they are on that path, they're now responsible for 2, 3, 5 changes per day. And if they don't respond in a reasonable amount of time, like 4 business hours, they're blocking delivery, and they're going to be stressed, and the organization is going to be slowed down. And it's also not necessary, because most of these changes are going to be pretty sort of standard things. Like, we're going to provision access for an application's data to be accessible by the application and some administrators, right? So let's codify these practices. And when it comes to least privilege, it's like, okay, do leaders, when they think least privilege, are they thinking about assigning privileges at the granularity of an individual permission, of which there are, 16, 17,000? I forget what AWS is up to now. But all the major cloud providers are above 10,000 individual permissions at this point. Or are they more interested in saying, providing like interacting with like an auditor level language here, which is, can the principal administer the resource? Can they read its configuration? Can they read the data, write data, delete data? And so what is it that we mean by least privilege? It used to be that some people would say, like, oh, well, least privilege is this, like, we only allow access to production for certain principles, and like that's least privilege. Like, okay, well, that's certainly one definition, and maybe that's a good place to start. But you got to like define what you mean by least privilege, and then make an appropriate business decision about, like, well, maybe we should control access with words like administer resource and read data, write data, and like have policy generators that use that sort of language to do what people mean, and like raise the level of the conversation. Because otherwise it is very difficult to get out of least privilege golf. And you lose out on, if you can get to 90% of the solution in terms of like reducing risk with a coarser abstraction, maybe do that, and then you can take the time you've saved and go play code golf with your most critical data resources.